RMT is running rampant in ARC Raiders. Now, for those of you who don't know, RMT stands for real money trading. It's been around for a long time throughout gaming history, but it's wildly different for ARC Raiders, and it's becoming an incredibly controversial and debated topic online. Now, we're not talking about microtransactions inside of the game that grant more power or items to the player. We're talking about bro number 1 giving bro number 2 a blueprint in which bro number 2 gives bro number 1 an amount in cold hard cash, USD, like real money, like I'm gonna PayPal you cash for your Tempest blueprint. This is real money exchanged between two people playing the game, and you might not think this is happening, and if you hadn't stumbled across this video, there's a good chance you never would have. eBay, Megaforge, GameFlip, G2G, you can purchase real in-game assets from other people, and it's an absolutely booming market. With ARC Raiders though, it's different. It's wildly different. But is it a bad thing? Here's the facts. Right now, if you find a Tempest blueprint, you can go onto eBay, take a screenshot, and list that blueprint for $69.50, and people will buy it quickly. This sold today. And that's only the tip of the iceberg. If divine light happens to shine on you and you get a Bobcat blueprint, that goes for $345, almost 350 USD for an ARC Raiders blueprint. And this is literally just one gamer getting on, listing it, and then hopping in, adding someone, trading it to them. They stick it in their butt, go out the hatch, and boom, this guy, after fees, has around $285 just because he found an item in the game. If you run into the Harvester solo and complete it by yourself, I got around 3 blueprints on average, 2 Jupiters and an Equalizer. Well, that Equalizer is $7.50. That Jupiter blueprint is going for $8.50, which means if you get 2 of those and 1 of the Equalizer, you're going to be making around $24.50 a run. Now this goes for everything, even down to the materials and the weapons, and literally everything you find in ARC Raiders has this ridiculous real money market for it. Now, I want to put a disclaimer that I'm not endorsing either side of this, but there's so many people out there that have no idea this is going on, and RMT has been around forever, as I said, but to grasp how absolutely separate the ARC Raiders market is, it's literally unlike anything I've seen before. I present 3 very real, happening right now scenarios. Scenario number 1 takes place in a game called Path of Exile 2. Now, in this game, you craft and upgrade gear and abilities. A massive catalyst for doing so is called a Divine Orb. Now, you may play all the way to max level finding 1 or none of these orbs at all. I have around 250 hours in the game, and I've found around 40 Divine Orbs organically. And organically in this game means not using other materials to trade up on the market for the Divine Orbs, it's just purely drops. Now, these 2 are traded on RMT via eBay, but at a rate of 500 orbs for around $4.99. Nobody outside of the massive bot farms can possibly see any potential in this market, as you'd be farming hundreds of hours for literal pennies. Scenario number 2 is World of Warcraft. Gold is extremely important, and you guessed it, on the RMT market through many different websites that have been around for a couple of decades now. You can go and swap USD or whatever currency you have for in-game gold. But much like PoE 2, the bot farms have fully excluded any legitimate players from competing. It's just not worth it. They're running programs 24/7 on hundreds of computers to farm these, with like 1 human watching over all of it. You just can't compete. But then we get to ARC Raiders. A random player can get an item that sells for $350, and he's not competing with any bots because as of to date, there's no bot that can run the scripts needed to play ARC Raiders consistently. You can't have a bot that runs a script to open the Raider caches or to hunt the Rocketeers or to go through certain doors and run a path. That's just not available yet, especially with having to go back home to Speranza and go through all the menus. That's very unlike World of Warcraft, where it's just an open world. You set the script to play and it can go forever. You can't do that in Arc Raiders. So all of these RMT players, the people that have known about the real money markets for a long time, are coming into Arc Raiders and saying, I'm not competing against any bots. There is a massive, and I do mean massive, demand for all of these blueprints and items and materials, and they're finding it to be wildly profitable. Trading in Arc Raiders since its inception has been a huge deal. There's Reddit groups and Facebook communities that you can find dedicated to Arc Raiders that actively swap items. Hell, I'm sure you've even been in a game and either you had something that someone else needed or they had something back in Speranza in their inventory that you needed and you guys are willing to swap, so you hop into your next game, you swap the item, you get out, you're good, you made a nice clean trade. But this real money element is entirely different. At first glance, it's very clearly an advantage that's granted to those that can afford to spend $350 on a blueprint in a game. And while you might say that that's an insane price, I would agree with you, it is, but I'd like to remind you that someone just dropped $40,000 in the new free-to-play Where Winds Meet on a boat. That's $40K on pixels. These real money market players are an entirely different breed. It's just not the same. For the RMT player, $500 is chump change, especially if they think they're getting the best weapon currently. And for the average gamer, being able to sell an in-game item for their car payment is absolutely insane. And that's where we get down to the bare bones of it and the actual controversy. Is this a bad thing? I mean, yeah, it's giving an advantage to people, but they have to still farm the materials or buy the materials, and then heck, I've killed someone holding a Tempest and I had a Stitcher too. Like, if they're not good, then having that ultimate weapon isn't going to really do them much more good. But yes, having instant access to something like that for just spending money is kind of wild. But on the flip side, the player that finds that, I mean, that's a crazy amount of money, like I said, for just a random gamer to be able to happen across while playing a raid. Now we get down to what do they do about it, because they do have a few options. Number one, they could actually implement an in-game market where players can trade actively right on the market. Now that's something that would be a bit revolutionary in gaming, but the other options seem a lot less community friendly. Let's take option 2. They just completely disable the trading of blueprints, or they disable the ability to drop the blueprints. In some way, they would have to make sure that once you loot a blueprint, that blueprint is bound on pickup. That's something from World of Warcraft. You pick up an item, it's BOP, bind on pickup. That means it is like stuck to your character. Or they could go the route of account-bound items. So if you pick up a blueprint or loot a blueprint, that blueprint is now bound to your account. If it's a dupe, oh well, cash it in for 5,000 coins. Option 3 is they could do absolutely nothing, ignore the fact that it exists, and just let it keep happening. But that also raises the question of how does that affect the cheaters? We already know that Embark has done a really good job reacting to the cheaters, sending out the bans when they can, and also refunding players all the items they lost if they feel they were killed by a cheater. But if they leave this real money market completely unrestricted, do the cheaters not just get empowered to cheat more? Are they able to actually handle the influx of cheaters that would come in if they realize they can just sit here and farm this game and easily make like $1,000 a day? So these are the questions that I pose to the Arc Raiders community. Is this a good thing or is it a bad thing? Depending on how you answered that, what should Embark actually do about it? And how do you think the cheating problem is going to evolve if they do nothing? Now, I want to leave you with this, and I want to be completely honest about my personal opinions. I put this at the end of the video because I wanted to present the facts and then tell you my opinion. I think it would be absolutely glorious if these multi-billion dollar companies and even some of the smaller studios, these multi-million dollar studios that are making tons and tons of money on microtransactions, would actually allow the player to hop into the economy. Now, one thing they could do is actually implement this in-game market system, but just like eBay and these other sites, take their percentage. If player A wants to sell a blueprint to player B, let them do that inside of the game and Embark can take 10 to 20%. I personally feel that this would be one of the most empowering things that any game studio has ever done for their player base, and you're welcome to change my mind down in the comments. Could you imagine though if someone could realistically make more money playing a game than they could at a 9 to 5 job? And wasn't that all of our dreams as kids, that we could grow up and make a living playing video games? I mean, that's a real potential here. If you're grinding 10 hours a day and you're doing the harvester events and you're finding all these blueprints, you can make some serious money. Currently though, I am sure that this is against their terms of service somewhere. I couldn't find it, but I could almost guarantee that you probably don't want to do this. I don't want to risk my account. Heck, I need it for the content. So I again don't endorse it, and you probably shouldn't do it. But if they ever came out and said, we're implementing an in-game market for a player-to-player economy to thrive, I am going to be the first one to have all my blueprints that I've stored up throughout leveling just sitting there filling the inventory space that we 100% need more of. Embark, we need more inventory space. You better believe I'm going to be the first one offloading all of my blueprints on that. But for now, if you run across me in game, say hello. I won't shoot first, and if you need a certain blueprint for something, even if it's just like a heavy gun parts blueprint, let me know. I probably have multiple of them, and I'd be happy to trade you one, as long as you don't just go and run and throw it on some RMT.